So, back doing the power ranking stuff, and the next worst team in the league I predict after the Portland Trailblazers is going to be the Washington Wizards. The Wizards are finally doing the right thing, although it definitely seems like that's just because they had their hand forced to do so. They are not good, and that was the plan, but they had to get to that point because Bradley Beal finally said enough is enough, which definitely is something that the front office should have undertook and just gotten to doing the damn selves, but they didn't. So their hand was forced and they're finally doing the right thing begrudgingly. So I don't know how much credit I want to give them for actually going in the direction of a rebuild, which the writing has been on the wall that they should do that for the last like 4 seasons, but they have at least actually done it. Not to mention, I will give credit for the fact that I do think they have pulled off some genuinely very nice moves. The fact that they turned Bradley Beal into Jordan Poole, I think could eventually go down as an all-time great trade if they do hit on Jordan Poole, which I think is very, very likely. I have been a pretty big fan of Jordan the past couple of years. I kind of initially called out his breakout. I think I had him as pick for MIP the year before he broke out. He obviously didn't end up winning it, but he definitely did, you know, have a case for it. Because I think it was like the second half. There's that one season where the Warriors narrowly missed the playoffs, and for like the second half of the season, Jordan Poole was a pretty reliable offensive option for them. And this was when Steph was averaging like 33 points per game, trying his best to lead his team to the playoffs. And I saw that from Jordan. I was like, okay, this guy is going to be a pivotal part of this team in the future. He was for one championship, and then he was awful for the year after getting punched in the face. But the thing about Jordan is he always seemed a little out of place in Golden State. Not that he wasn't like talented enough to be in Golden State, but rather that the type of talent he was kind of clashed with the play style of the Warriors. While he could definitely do stuff that fit into the Warriors system, definitely seemed like the type of guy who would like to have the ball in his hands and just isolate at the top of the key. And that type of offense is not really indicative of the Warriors system. They like to have a lot of off-ball movement, a lot of guys coming off of down screens for threes, and not really just dribbling the air out of the ball. But Jordan very much likes dribbling the ball, and he very much likes shooting the ball. And in the case of the Wizards, really aren't that many options to dribble and shoot the ball. So I am anticipating that he should average quite a bit more points than he did before. In fact, if I could go for an over-under on like 26 points per game, I might take the over on that. Hello everybody, welcome to Oscar Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second. It makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. Also, real quick, episode 5 of the Spurs My NBA is out now, going over the start of the 2024-2025 season. The Dallas Mavericks and Luka Doncic kind of made me rage quite a bit, so you can find that entertaining. And we get to see what the new team looks like with our new rookie center, as well as a free agent addition in Aaron Nesmith. So yeah, if you want to go check that out, that would be much appreciated. Even if you don't really like 2K content, it is enjoyable just from the perspective of seeing a team be built from the ground up. That's seeing roster construction and all of that kind of stuff. That's like my favorite shit about the sport. So the Spurs series and 2K series in general is just kind of an outlet for me to explore what I could do as a GM. Obviously, you know, it's fucking 2K, but closest thing you got to it. But yeah, as I mentioned in the Portland Trailblazers video, and as I'm probably going to say a couple of times as we are discussing these bad teams, when you have a bad team and no one really can score the ball, and you have one guy who is a volume scorer, that guy's probably going to average a lot of points, and it's probably going to be on mid to bad efficiency. So I don't expect Jordan Poole to have some extremely efficient high volume scoring season, but I do expect a high volume scoring season out of him. I think this is an environment that's more built to his abilities, and slowly over time that can be developed into a more winning environment alongside that play style, because it's not as though Jordan Poole's play style is antithetical to winning. It's just a different way of doing it. I definitely think that will work out in the long term, but in the short term, just speculating onto what they're going to look like this year, a lot of Jordan Poole buckets and a lot of missed shots and not a lot of defense being played, not a lot of playmaking being made. As for the players outside of him on this roster, Tyus Jones is obviously going to be key here. I think he can be like one of the stabilizing forces to prevent them from being just completely non-competitive competitive all the time. I do disagree with the notion that I've seen from a lot of people, though, that he's going to like become like a 18 and 10 guy. I think, you know, I could see him being like a 10 assist per game guy, but I just don't know that he's a aggressive enough scorer to really get to that threshold. And if he did, he'd be sacrificing a lot of efficiency along the way. So yeah, not really sure about that. Kyle Kuzma will be the next guy up in the pecking order in terms of taking shots, and I expect him to take quite a bit of shots. Again, probably someone who will average 20 plus points per game. I know that he did it last year, and now he has, you know, I don't know that his role will be that dramatically increased, because I imagine Jordan Poole is just going to take the shots that Bradley Beal was taking before, if not taking more of them. But you know, there's not a lot of options on the floor. Porzingis is also gone, so he could get some of Kristaps' shots for sure. Outside of that, for the rest of this roster, I really don't think much of Deni Avdija. Very good defender, but his offense has just not been put together. Corey Kispert is a shooter who has offensive upside, and he can bring some scoring to the table for sure. Daniel Gafford is a cool big man, although I don't expect him to be anything more than just a solid enough starter if that's the role that he's given. And there are some young guys on this team that there is a little bit of interest around them, but you know, for the most part, this is going to be the Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma show, and it's going to be high volume scoring. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Wizards actually ended up being a decent offensive team. Like, I'm not saying in the top half of the league, but like if they were like 19th in offense, 18th in offense, that wouldn't really surprise me. I'm expecting them to be a completely terrible defense. There is basically no defenders on this team. I think Daniel Gafford's kind of overrated as a defender, not that dramatically impactful. Obviously, Deni is a pretty solid defender as well, and he'll get some opportunity, but everybody else just not really going to try that much. I would expect at best they are the 25th best defense in the league. I wouldn't also be surprised if they ended up being a little bit better than the second worst team in the league. It really comes down to how well those pieces actually fit together and kind of the mentality of the players on this team, because I do think there is enough talent on this Wizards roster that if they really committed to trying to put a winning product out there, don't get me wrong, they would fail. But, you know, if they really committed to that, that could be the difference between 25 wins versus 35. And I do think that would be conceivable. I just have very little confidence that that's actually the way that they would go about things. But that is the end of this video. Again, go check out that Spurs My NBA if you have not already. I cannot emphasize enough how much fun I have with that series. But that is it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.